to everybody who reaches out and says they enjoy the podcast. It really means a lot. This doesn't get the most traction, but we still have fun doing it. So we love hearing about it. If you guys do have something you want us to talk about, please let us know on either YouTube, Twitter, Discord, whatever, and we'll bounce that idea around. Maybe we will get to it, maybe we won't, but there's always room for conversation. So I just want to say thank you before we get into it. But this week's topic is something that, I did see a thumbnail from Team APS's second channel, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while because as longtime listeners of the channel know, I've been out of the game now for almost an entire year, and getting back into it, it feels kind of overwhelming. So the topic is the barrier to entry in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I've only been out for a year. I've only missed a handful of sets and metagames, and it still feels kind of like overwhelming to catch up on everything I missed between the extra deck cards, the product releases, and just what's happened. I couldn't even imagine being a player that has absolutely no experience with the game, attempting to understand this game at a competitive level within a reasonable amount of time. So, Joe, your initial thoughts on this topic, because obviously you're a long-time player, probably over a decade now, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around not knowing anything about the game because you've been playing as these mechanics have been introduced, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, as a player who's got a lot of experience, what are your thoughts on a new player coming into the game?
So I'll probably just use my personal experience for this one. But I remember when I got back into the game around I think it was either 2011 or 2012. I can't remember. But I hadn't played since 2007. It was either 6 or 7. So it's been a while, right? And I remember getting back into the game, and I remember a lot of the sets, but there was a period where I think it was from Invasion of Chaos, because that's the last set I remember in Yu-Gi-Oh! All the way up to Phantom Darkness when Dark Arm Dragon came out, and I remember the plethora of cards I had to read to get. It took me 6 months to acclimate to everything that had come in at that time. Oh no, sorry. I just screwed up that timeline, but it was a lot. But anyway, it took me 6 months to acclimate, and then even then, as I was present, I wasn't comfortable with the actual card pool, maybe until a full year after that. And the amount of different cards, different interactions, what is it? When I got back into the game, there were 2 whole new summoning mechanics outside of fusion summoning with synchro summoning and XYZ summoning. So I had to learn all of that. It could be intimidating, how big of an actual pool and how big of a gap there is depending on when you last played.
So, with that in mind, if you were, let's just say you're Joe Schmo walking into locals for the first time, see Yu-Gi-Oh, see some people playing, it looks interesting. How do you, as a player who's been playing for a long time, what's the first thing you tell them?
Honestly, whenever I see new players come in, especially if you play the first experience you have playing with them is when you play with them in tournament, right? Sometimes that's just how it is. It's trial by fire.
Yeah.
You sit down, you play with them, and then they get bummed out, as some new players do, because the game's not only overwhelming, but the level of actual technical play that's involved is actually insane. But what I tell players is especially after their first tournament experience or just watching people play, that don't get discouraged, because it looks more intimidating than what it actually is. For example, I remember when I wanted to get back into it, I asked a buddy of mine who was playing, Brendan Sullivan, and he told me that where I usually go to locals now, Die Hard Games in Springfield, Illinois, that they did events there, and I went there and I didn't play, I just watched. And then I remember playing, and then I didn't actually play my first local tournament for the first 6 weeks. But a lot of people, what I'll tell them is the best way to learn is to just research. Find something that looks interesting to you and just research it, because the more you can learn about your actual card pool that's available to you for what you're trying to play, the better understanding of the game you'll actually get just generically.
Yeah, and this is assuming, you know, they did a little bit, you know, they understand what the game board is, what all the zones are, and the basic fundamental mechanics. And my words of advice would just be, just find a starting point, find a deck that you enjoy, and just go with it. You know, make mistakes because they're going to happen. You're not going to know that Dante mills for cost, like, until you see somebody do it and you try to interact with them and you can't stop it. You know, like, you can't Ash Dante. Shit like that's going to happen. But as far as like entry level, one of the things that is the most frustrating is the amount of cards that you have to know to be competitive. Right? You need to know hundreds, if not thousands, of cards and their effects and interactions, and that to me was probably the hardest thing for me to pick up. Like, the summoning mechanics make sense once you understand them; they're pretty freaking simple. But knowing all of like the good cards from those mechanics and all the tech options that have happened in the course of Yu-Gi-Oh's history was something that took a long time to figure out. And then the meta shifts so rapidly. Like, if for me, like, I'm out for a year and I've missed so many Link monsters. I've missed like 7 meta decks, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I remember the other day we were talking about it, and then like you had no idea what Eldritch did. You had no idea what the deck's not even relevant anymore. Well, I mean, it might be a little bit, but you had no idea what Adamantipator did. Or some other decks. I think you still don't know what Infernoble does.
Yeah, it loses. That's what it does.
Wow, that's tough. But no, yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. But I think like the thing that I honestly would actually like, once you like learn how to play the game, I think the hardest part of it is learning how to play optimally.
Oh yeah, like, you know, it's that, you know, it's not the hardest thing to play, but to perfect. Like, it's just this whole nother level of dedication to understanding the game.
Oh yeah, like I remember. So after like 2 years of Yu-Gi-Oh, and I thought like me personally, I thought I had gotten pretty good to actually play at like a competitive level, and then like actually sitting down at like higher echelons of tables, like, you know, going to regionals and starting like 3-0 and 4, like having a nice little groove, and like actually playing the players who like put hours among hours of playtesting it, and realize that you still don't know how to play as optimally as you should do. Like, that was like a big eye-opening experience. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, my first couple events I went to, I just sucked, and the next thing I know, I'm getting up higher and higher in tables, and then I just realized I have a lot more to learn than I thought I actually did. But then, like, for me personally, so I think it was like 2016 is when I finally hit my sweet spot, where I actually thought like I actually played the game like very optimally. Like, that was my first time I ever like actually won an event, you know?
Oh yeah. It's just there. I remember just the steps and the time it took getting from that, you know, that entry level player to like a somewhat competent player. Like, it took so many learning experiences, so many losses, and just the amount of time spent watching YouTube videos or reading cards, or, you know, finding one thing that I would say is find a group of people. It doesn't have to be at your skill level. Ideally, you know, there's somebody that is very, very familiar with the game to help you along, and just like actually just play the game, you know. That was one thing that helped me out a lot, is I had somebody who was, you know, I wouldn't say he was the most competitive player, but he understood competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, and I just played with him like just about every day, and he helped me out. He helped me learn the cards and get to a competent player, and then I'd branch out on my own.
I can't say how many times it took me to get my shit kicked in to realize that I needed to learn how to play the game better.
Yeah.
Like, a lot. Because, like,
there's always a winner and a loser, you know, like, who cares? You're playing this game for fun. If you want to get better at it, understand why you lost, don't get me wrong, but
listen, let's get something painfully good. We don't play Yu-Gi-Oh for fun. We play to a certain
okay, so there's different tiers, right? There's like a fun casual, like, don't know what I'm doing, like a competitive casual who's still having fun, but he knows the game. And then there's a competitive player a competitive player who gets joy out of like doing well, and then there's the elite competitive who hate the game and everything about it, but still want to be the best at it. Right.
So what you're saying is there's Salsa's French, there's us, and then there's VLT.
Oh yeah. All right. So besides the card pool, some barriers to entry are, I mean, right now you can't play the fucking game, but ignoring that one, right? You got,
why are you gonna say it like that?
Because it's frustrating. Like, the best way for me personally to get back into the game would be to go to locals, play some tried and true deck without new cards, you know. Like I would play Zoo without Zeus, or I'd play Sky Striker and I'd just get demolished, right? And I'd see what kicked my ass and be like, okay, that's pretty good. I either got to play around it or I want to get that card. Like, that's how I would do it.
Whenever you actually get to go back to locals, I'll give you $20 to go to locals and play spellbooks without any meta relevant cards.
Okay, but Diagrams at 1.
Doesn't matter. We're not playing True Draco Spellbook again. Stop that. That was such a bad deck. But anyway, you have to play at least 3 matches, and I just want to feel the rage when you hop in the chat next night. Oh, it's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I would do it. I'd be happy going fucking 04. Spellbooks is such a fun deck, and when you have alti spellbooks, you don't even feel bad. Like, you pick up a game by fading something, and you're happy. You know what I mean?
No, bingo. Spellbooks isn't like the best deck. It's just the power move. You just want your opponent to know that your bankroll is bigger than yours.
Yeah, it's like when you took didn't you take Max Rarity Crystal Beast?
I did, and it was fantastic. It sucked, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, so you can't play the game, so that's one thing that's pretty tough right now. And then assuming you learned all the mechanics and assuming you know how to play I'm just gonna pick Burning Abyss because Burning Abyss is a nice kind of figure out everything that the game does. You know, you have different versions of the deck. It's kind of combo centric. Like, it can play. Assuming you understand that, find a way to play the game. And then what, Joe? What do you do as a new player?
Okay, well, you learn to play the game. The best way to do that is whatever you picked up. For your example, I don't know if I'd pick Burning Abyss because, yes, it's easy to play. But, if you mess up once, there's no forgiveness in the deck.
Yeah, but personally, I hate myself, so I like that.
Right. So, for example, usually the best way to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is playing a rogue deck because they're a lot easier. The curve's very simple, yada, yada, such and such. You have to learn what your deck does, what it's good against, what it's bad against. And the thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you have to learn that's, the most crucial part of actually playing it, once you have, the mechanics down, how the game works, stuff like that, right? You need to learn how to side. Siding's super, super, super important.
I was going to jump in before that because I feel like it was skipped over a little bit. Understand that your deck is probably far from optimal. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's because you only had a scope of a card pool. Maybe you clicked on a deck profile from fucking 2 years ago, or a new one, but you couldn't afford some cards that were moderately expensive. Because as a new player, I'm not just dropping 50 bones on a card. You know, I'm just going to play what I can and then try to do the best I can with that. And then you always have to be constantly okay, do I like this deck? Do I want to move on? Do I want to invest into more cards? Because it's obviously a physical trading card game. There's a barrier to entry financially as well as skill level. And you can't ignore the fact that cards cost money. And if you're not playing the best cards, you're not going to have the best built deck. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't expect the best results.
Oh, no. But I think the problem there, too, is when you're learning how to play your deck optimally and realizing that you have to have staples for your deck. Yu-Gi-Oh's price range for staples for your Yu-Gi-Oh deck is super expensive. Like if you look at like
Yeah.
the deck cord, they're actually like pretty cheap. But like when you look at the staples, that's where it, like breaks your wallet.
Especially
And, like,
new,
the-
like meta relevant staples, like the newer ones, have been getting out of hand.
Oh yeah, they're like almost every time you see it's like $100 a piece.
And you know, for a local setting, you don't need triple lightning storm in your side. Whatever.
Although it feels great when resolved.
Yes. So you were talking about the side deck, and that's the learning how to play side of it, because siding, like everybody says, you play 66% of your games in the side most likely. You know, if you're going to game 3, it's anywhere from 50% to 66%. And you need to understand what the side deck is and how it functions.
There's so much that goes in that too. You have to learn how to go first. You have to learn how to go second. What cards are ideal in this matchup? Well, like at a learning level, honestly, it's not too bad because one, you're not like 1,000% like worried about your results. All you really care about is like the learning process, right?
Yeah, is
So,
my
like,
deck doing what I want it to do?
Exactly. So you do that, and then like once you learn how to, then you can actually like start investing and like getting like bigger cards. But like as you're playing, and I noticed it too when I started learning how to play and stuff like that, as I progressively learned like what all my decks did as I was playing, I also started learning why certain cards in the side were good, and then like reading just like one way I learned like the massive card pool that Yu-Gi-Oh has access to is we still had Dueling Network back then. Now we have Dueling Book, which is essentially the same thing. Just not nearly as toxic. But you learn as you look through as you play what cards are just like good generically. Like for example, the Fire King structure deck. I don't know if anyone remembers that. That's like 2013, 2014 Yu-Gi-Oh. But I remember an old card from Generation Force. I believe it came out. It was like Generation Shift is really good in that deck. And then you just learned like that can play like certain cards and stuff like that. But as like I said, you're playing, you're just like your mind's just going to keep wandering to places like all these cards are good, and then you'll test them, and then you have to get out of the phase where like you just want to play like Spice all the time, right? You have to play like cards that are actually practical, and that's one thing I had to like actually like break myself from doing was playing cards that I thought were really good, but after like playing them, realizing that they weren't. You know? What
Yeah,
I mean?
and you know that's that transition from like a casual mindset to a competitive mindset. Like, okay, I'm having fun, but I'm losing a lot. Like, what's the problem? Maybe your deck's built well, but your side deck is a smoke screen into a different deck. Like, you can't be doing stuff like that. But yes, I would agree. The side deck helped me learn a vast majority of the card pool, and obviously started my side deck staple binder that is just always growing. It doesn't matter if it's relevant now, maybe it will be someday, but that's where I learned like what Forbidden Chalice is, Forbidden Lance, like spell or the Curse Seal of Forbidden Spell, just like random old shit.
To be fair, one of my favorite side deck cards of all time, and people who've played for a while know, but Wiseman's Chalice. Woo. Love that card.
Can you see? I don't even know what that card is.
Wiseman, aw, bro, you are in for a treat. Hold on. Let me pull this up real quick.
But
Here we go. You ready for it?
yeah.
All right, so this is one of my favorite side deck cards. So if you control no monsters, select one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it. During the end phase of this turn, give control of that special summon monster to your opponent. This monster cannot be tributed or used for a synchro material monster while it's in face up on the field. Wiseman Chalice.
Seems pretty fun. And I mean, that's off topic. I'll come back to that. All right. So we talked about, you know, learning the game itself. We talked about deck building, talked about side decking a little bit. Now, product releases. You need to, even if you don't get new product, you need to understand that new product is coming out and what's good. Like you can invest $200 into a deck and it does well against the current meta, and you don't get anything new, it's eventually not going to be good. Meta shifts, people want to win, people get the new stuff, and you can't continue to play the exact same way that you've been playing. It doesn't work that way.
Bro, what are you talking about? I've played my Blue Eyes strategy the same way for the past 4 years, and I love it.
So you're playing a 2016 Blue Eyes deck.
Hey, don't worry about the sauce.
Nothing added.
Yeah, don't worry, I got the sauce.
Okay.
I cut all the danger cards. I cut all the guard dragon cards. We're just playing good old 2016 Blue Eyes.
Yeah. So,
Consistency.
and that's one of the fun parts. It's like, okay, I have a dedicated strategy that I want to play, right? I'm going to look through the new set and see if anything synergizes really well with it. And even if it doesn't, at least I'm reading the entire set and understanding the new cards and keeping up to date with that mental card database, because you might not need to know every card, but no one wants to be that guy that asks, hey, what does that do? Every single card, every match. Unless they're a Prank Kids player and you're just doing it for fun.
Oh, there's a special place in hell for Prank Kids players, but we're not going to get into that.
All right, so what are some words of advice you would give a new player? Obviously, I've already talked about finding a playtesting group. We've talked about, deck building a little bit. What are some other tips and tricks?
Tips and tricks for new players. It's got a. Trying to think here.
Well, one for me, I would say, don't look at what's good, look at what's interesting to you. If you're just bare bones, like I'm learning the game, like find something that you actually want to play, and maybe jump on Dueling Book and test it out.
I was about to say that, not necessarily jumping and testing out, but especially now, there's a lot more a lot more information to take in, but we have access to an online platform. Granted, it's not the best platform, but it is a platform where it's completely free to play, and you can do something that I don't do, which is test the cards before you purchase them, because I collect, so I just buy everything anyway. But being able to do that allows you to make smart investments, because like I said, the startup cost, especially when you start getting more into the game, is huge. So that's something you can do too. But.
Yeah. Thinking back to 2016 when I first got back into the game, I've told the story before, right? I bought Satellar Knights. I had fun. I learned it. And I didn't even fully learn that fucking deck. I didn't understand the mechanics of Deltaros when it leaves the field, summoning from deck, and what material was. It took me a while to fucking understand what I was doing. And I just remember basically cheating just about every match unintentionally, right?
I was definitely intentional, and lie to you.
Yeah, definitely, stick chair, all that shenanigans.
Oh, you're playing stick chair. You're playing the comp.
No, but somebody did show me that, and that was the thing. I was brand new, but I hung out at the shop, and I like talking to people. So I met a whole bunch of people. Shout out to Frank, Kaiba was his nickname, Dan, Mike, all fantastic people, and they just sat me down, and basically they all had extra decks, right? So I got to test new stuff that I've never even seen before. And I'm sitting there drawing my 5 cards, reading every single one of them. What the fuck? What am I even trying to accomplish? But they walked me through it. And then the next game, they wouldn't have to talk to me about it. And I would just get to play. And that's where that sense of community comes in. And it's really hard to learn this game 100% on your own, I think is the point I'm trying to get across. You need a group of friends, one person, a community, a Discord server, anything to help you grasp the depth of this game. Because you're going to figure out that real quick that you can't do something that you think you can, and you're going to be like, why the fuck can't I do this?
Yes. The slamming table phase, my favorite.
Yeah, Solemn Striking, Necros, Kaleidoscope. Shout out to Doug.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. I love Doug. God damn it. Anyway, I don't think I actually, I just mentioned that because you're saying you need an actual friend group. I don't think I actually started learning what decks could actually do until I met Kyle and Bobby from Decatur. Love Kyle, love Bobby, but no, it really does. Like if you can find a group of people who actually like sit down and like actually like help you like learn the game, like learn the game, then it becomes a lot easier. Especially because I can't remember how many games Bobby made me sit through Dark World. God, that was awful.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you've done it recently, but back in Joliet, like I'd hang out to the card shop till like 1, 2 in the morning because they were open that late, and like I'd be shooting the shit with the owners, and then like this one guy who would hang out after locals, like looking at cards, and then eventually I became the guy. It's like, hey, like, I saw you were playing this today. How'd you like it? And he's like, oh, I just got into the game. I'm like, okay, cool. And I just start talking to him about like helping him out, and it eventually like comes full circle after you've been playing for a while, and you can be the guy that helps him out, explain the damage step or explain why you can't Ash Hayate, random shit like that.
It's right. I think my problem is I tried learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In a Magic saturated area. That was the worst.
Oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very unique game. It's got a lot of unique interactions that, like, unless you sit there and study a turn order chart that explains the damage step, and even if you read that, you're not going to fully understand it. Like, the community keeps this game alive. Without the player base that love the game so much, despite Konami trying to make us not like it, they really do keep it alive. So, I mean, I guess
they really do try their hardest to make us not like Yu-Gi-Oh, don't they?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like it's the redheaded stepchild of the company, and they don't really, like, they just want to grab some money, force their product onto the shelves because they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid regardless. It's just I feel bad for the card shops sometimes that are forced to buy these mediocre products. Seems like they've been pretty good lately, though, right?
It's not too bad. A lot of stuff have actually been pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was mostly last year, like early half of last year, where it was just like all the shit was just a nightmare.
All of it.
But
who remembers $100 Phantasmas? That was a good time.
That was fun. Oh, shout out to Bless for letting me borrow him when I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
That was pretty good. And I did pretty good at that regional with Necros.
And then dropped.
No, I think I finished. Because was that Indy or Rosemont?
No, it was Indy. You were 4-0. I can't remember who you lost to, but it wasn't a BA player. I can't remember. I know you were pissed.
Yeah, I think I went X2 and missed out on top or an invite, which was frustrating. But the deck did really well. If anyone cares,
they do. They do, John.
All right, so we're coming to a close on time. This game is an extremely complex mess that we all just want to play, right? Like this game is so stupidly complicated for a card game, but it's so much fun. The card art's beautiful. The lore is pretty cool. I don't know anything about the show, so don't at me. And it's just a fun game. The community can be toxic at times, but it can also be amazing. So if you are a new player, feel free to reach out to any of us, anybody on the internet. As long as it's not in the YouTube comment section, we'll probably want to help you out.
More than likely. Also, don't fall into the stigmatism. Please read your fucking cards.
Yeah, there's been times I play cards for literal months and haven't actually read the effect. So,
John is the king of not reading cards. Jesus Christ.
So,
also, I got nothing.
All right, guys, if you have enjoyed, please remember to check us out. Same time, same place, every single week on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever the fuck else Buzzsprout lets me upload YouTube video or podcasts to. If you have enjoyed and want us to talk about something specific, feel free to leave us a message. You can join the Discord in the description. I don't know, whatever else I'm supposed to say when signing off. Joe, you got anything else?
Douglas French has no sauce.
Piccolo, you have no sauce. No. Hey.
All right, guys, I will see you back here, same time, same place next week. Peace out.
Okay, bye.